As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
Nintendo in the news, and this is, I thought, again, in the context of gaming extending outside of gaming, I think let's stay with this theme to start here. And the headline here is Universal Studios Hollywood opens Super Nintendo World in 2023. So Universal Studios Hollywood announced, this is last Thursday, that the Super Nintendo World area will open at the park in 2023. The park's feature presentation store will open with exclusive Nintendo-themed merchandise soon. Construction's underway near the Transformers site. And they opened the Super Nintendo World in Japan in March of 2021. So this has been delayed a few years, obviously, because of COVID. It says the first phase is going to have 2 rides named Super Mario Kart Ride and Yoshi's Adventure. You're going to get magnetic power-up bands that allow you to interact with the attractions, such as hitting real-life blocks. And the wristbands are able to keep track of scores, including a park-wide ranking board, coins and stars from various rides, and they're able to interact with a game console. So what sounds like a pretty cool section of Universal Studios coming in 2023. Who loves this for Nintendo? Who thinks like they seem to be doing the most complicated thing, not the most obvious, like a TV show or something? Like, what's your take on Super Nintendo World opening at Universal Studios Hollywood?
It's a big swing, like you said. It's not something safe like a show. Though they are doing the movie too, I guess. But it's definitely a big swing, outside the box kind of thinking. It clearly had it in development for a long time, because the biggest question here is like, well, the world has been, an unstable place recently for live events and things of this nature. That's nothing that they could have predicted or planned around. You see the massive success of Star Wars Land, of Harry Potter World, and it's pretty cool to see gaming throw their hat into the ring there. I'm particularly excited to see the merch opportunities that come out of this, not just what you can do when you're there, but what Mario hats or gloves, or I don't know, I just like buying things. I want to go to Disneyland and buy all the lightsabers. I want to buy, you know what I mean? Want to go get my Harry Potter wand at Harry Potter World. So I'm curious, besides the wristbands, which are kind of like a keepsake souvenir, what the merch angle is going to be. Because, right, that's the point. The point, I guess, is to have fun, but it's really for Universal and Nintendo to make a lot of money. And they're not just going to do that on sales. They need to keep you entertained. Is there some take-home opportunity where maybe that wristband gets me access to the same kind of leadership boards for a metaverse online, experience thereafter? I don't know where they're growing it. It's very new, but a lot of buzz and excitement. It's certainly going to be expensive.
Oh.
Jeff, you had thoughts on this?
I was going to say, well, one, I love the metaverse, toss in there. I think that would be an interesting thing to have a digital version as well. But what I was going to say is that I love this for Nintendo, because I think it could have the potential to bring in kind of a younger demographic. And I think that maybe sounds weird, because we always think about Nintendo as like a kid's brand, but I kind of think it's a kid's brand for people who were kids 25, 30 years ago. And I think you're going to have a lot of people who grew up with Nintendo who now have young kids bring their kids to Super Nintendo World. And a lot of those kids who are currently playing Roblox or currently on Fortnite maybe get into Nintendo more than they would have, because they have this kind of formative experience with a brand that maybe their parents love or know more than they do. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of just the first thing that popped in my head.
You think the entry point is the theme parks? Because I feel like theme parks are the ultimate like brand extension, not necessarily like where you go to discover something.
So usually I agree, and I think it's the brand extension for like the adult that grew up with Nintendo. But I feel like if you're like a 7 to, maybe 5 to 15-year-old kid right now, you don't really care that much about Nintendo. Just like not, I don't know. That could be wrong. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I feel like Nintendo's an older audience.
You got Zelda, Breath of the
nostalgia.
Wild. You got Animal Crossing. I'm blanking
No,
on
I'm
some
not trying
of
to
the
say
other.
that Nintendo's not had amazing hits recently, but it feels to me like a lot of those appeal to people who grew up playing Nintendo, not necessarily that are like kids now. I have no data to back that up, obviously.
So I just want to take a poll, like of the three of you guys, and in chat also, of all the brand extensions Nintendo could have done, movie, TV show, more merch, like whatever brand extension you can imagine, how many of you like theme parks above the others? Like where do you rank theme park in sort of the best brand extensions you think Nintendo could do?
Well,
Lindsay, you're a big Nintendo fan, right?
Yeah, and this is difficult because they have the movie coming out soon. And so a natural extension of movies is theme parks. So this is a little bit like, I'm not sure. I feel like this is actually going to be good timing because the movie, I believe, is supposed to be released this year, and then the theme park opens next year. So it's kind of the natural progression of what kind of usually happens with the way theme parks work and the kind of media they interact with. To your point, Paul, I am, I suppose, a little surprised that they went the theme park route before a kids cartoon, which seems very obvious. But I actually was thinking about this. I wrote a case in business school for Ben and Jerry's to open an ice cream themed theme park. So I'm just evidently very pro theme park. And I love Harry Potter world and Star Wars world and all of those things. So it's hard for me to see past my own personal bias and not be like, as soon as you read this, oh yeah, I want to go to that for sure. So I'm definitely excited about it. And to what Jeff said, yeah, it definitely might help, people who are nostalgic for the brand, bringing their kids and bringing younger generation into it. I feel like I would need a lot more data to know if this is the right business decision or not.
I feel like theme parks are they're more analogous to YouTube, right? And we've talked about this on the podcast proper, in that theme parks are a monetization engine, right? It's where you get fans to go to sell them stuff and tickets and merch, and like that's where you have them like captive, where you can sell them a bunch of stuff. But it's not necessarily like a growth engine, right? It's not where you create new fans.
Right.
And so like the bigger business question is, what is Nintendo's greater problem? Is it not enough growth of the baseline audience, or is it not good enough monetization of that audience? Right? That's sort of, I think, where that decision would hinge.
Probably both. Yeah.
I was just thinking that too, because I mean, like, we've criticized them a lot for, not really supporting all of their esports titles, and for the Switch not supporting a lot of other crossover games. It's interesting. What I like about it is that what Twitch has shown us is that audiences are looking for new ways to interact with the content creators, right? They want that direct relationship. They want their chat to be displayed on screen. They want, these things where they're a part of the creation process. And I think when you have a theme park, it's just another way to interact with that within that universe that you don't get sitting, alone in your chair in a movie theater, watching a movie or in other forms of IP application. So again, I really like the big swing here. It's not to say that they need one thing or the other, because we criticize Nintendo a lot, and they do things their own way, right? They're to the beat of their own drum, so to speak. But this is something that I think we're all, or at least I'm definitely behind.
Let me get caught up on comments here because I'm way behind, guys. Kevin says Arcane has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and 9.1 on IMDb. On top of Uncharted, Halo, Witcher, Cuphead, Last of Us, and other video game content coming, it fits the bill. No question, Kevin. I think 100%. Gary says, with that description, I want to go, referring to the description of Nintendo World. Yeah, I mean, it does sound kind of fun. I mean, I'm not a theme park person, but that does sound kind of fun. Gary says, really depends on execution. I agree, right? It could end up being very lame. Also, like hitting a block could just be some like piece of styrofoam hung, like I don't know what that actually is going to be. Simorphin smiling. Freddie says, you're mistaken, Jeff. Kids love Nintendo. I see it every day. I don't. Was anyone debating? Like, I don't think we were debating that kids love Nintendo. The question is, are kids discovering Nintendo?
That's fair.
I don't know. I'm defending you, Jeff.
You defending me. I think I definitely, made it seem that way. So I appreciate you correcting me, Freddie.
Sim says, I did, referring to Nintendo, I guess. Kevin says, didn't Jeff say something along the lines of, there is a Harry Potter world, not a Nintendo world, a few weeks ago?
That's what I'm not going to take, Kevin. Go to the tapes. Pull the transcript.
I do believe you may have said something to that effect.
I'm a Harry Potter guy, but I also know, I know what's going on in the gaming world here, so I wouldn't have said that.
Freddie says it's what their parents allow them to play when they have rules. I mean, that is a good reason for them to be on it. And Simp agrees here. Christopher says, Chris, metaverses equals digital theme parks, but real theme parks. Let's review that investment opportunity. Come on, guys. Families get to experience video games in real life. Much better experience than a VR helmet. I mean, look, we can discuss what does it cost to build a Nintendo world versus what would it cost to build a VR metaverse Nintendo land? I'm guessing at least one order of magnitude difference, probably two, like maybe 100 times the cost, I would guess.
To be fair, Nintendo is just licensed it. They didn't put up the capital. It's
fair.
Universal, but still.
Fair. Someone's paying. I get, I mean, does anyone disagree with Chris's point here, though, that, let me just read the last point here. Legoland isn't to discover Legos. I agree with, but I think that's what I just said, that the theme parks are not for discovery, they're for monetization.
And that's what I led with, was my favorite part about theme parks is buying all this stuff. Like, I will buy everything. I have multiple things in this room from theme parks that I bought, and all I'm thinking about is going back to the theme park to buy more stuff. It's awesome.
I mean, theme parks are the most profitable part of Disney business. So it's like, that is everything you guys are saying is definitely correct. On the metaverse digital theme park point, I mean, Chris, you're absolutely right. I think we're all pretty bullish on that. It's just, this is Nintendo we're talking about. If they're 40 years behind Disney in creating a theme park, they're going to be 50 years behind creating a metaverse. No. It's just like,
but again, like I said, like where does this lead? Are they also going to do a digital theme park? Is there some overlapping application? Unfortunately, as hard as all of us try, we're never going to get rid of the physical world. So you kind of need both of these things, right? So I just don't think one is better than the other. I think there are all these different types of experiences that lovers of that IP crave, and they're going to complement each other.
Guys, sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, this is just an aside, but there was a game at the Pirates baseball stadium one time, like in between innings, where they had to go through a Mario course. Like, they sort of projected it on, and then everyone had to hit and jump. And I always wanted to play that, so I'm thinking I'm going to be at this at Super Mario World.
I also I want to take issue with the name Super Mario World. Like, why not Mario 64 World? Like, why the love for Super Nintendo and not Nintendo 64? Like, they picked a very specific generation. And it almost seems purposeful, like it's targeted at people like who are a little bit older, like maybe in their mid to late 30s, who probably have young families, who Super Nintendo rings like they didn't call it, Mario Wii World, right? Like,
I mean, guaranteed there was like a closed research poll, right? Like, and they tested all of these, and it had to be the one. I just think Super Mario rolls off the tongue a lot easier than Mario 64 or Mario Wii.